Hello, hello. There's this opening banner that I'm supposed to use, and I'm just not feeling it. No offense. Uh, yeah, it's that or something. But like when we go live, I'm just ready to come on. So am I supposed to pause? Maybe I need intro music. I don't know. Lots of things to think about. What's up? It's Tuesday night, 7 p.m. on the East Coast, February 25th. I hope you're all doing well. If you're just joining us, which you probably are because I just went live, please feel free to say hi in the chat. Let me know where you're from if I don't know already, and we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. We'd like to let everybody get in and get settled. I see there's already some questions in the chat, so we'll wait till we go through the usual opening housekeeping, and then we can jump in. So if you're just joining us, as always, please feel free to say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're from, how you're doing. I'm going to turn things on Do Not Disturb because I get distracted really easily. Hello from Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much for joining. I would imagine it's late, pretty late there, if not early morning. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hi, Maya. It's good to see you. We'll get started in just about 30 seconds. So as I always say, please say hi. Let me know you're here and where you're joining from. And we'll get rolling shortly and start diving into some topics and questions and all that kind of good stuff. So, but I do hope everyone is doing well. Maybe I'll just grab a drink. Hey, Robert Spence in the house. Greetings from my hometown. Hey, GMAS from North Carolina. It's good to see you. CJ. Oh, hi, CJ. Good to see you too. All right. Let me jump into some housekeeping, and then we can dive into some real conversation. So my name is Ethan. I'm your host of Community Conversations. This community conversation is intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The IOCDF is not a crisis hotline. If you are ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local emergency room or call 911 or the 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. As always, we want to create as safe a space as possible and be kind and respectful to everyone here. We're just here to support one another, so keep that in mind as we talk and open up and share. Also note that we're being broadcast and recorded on several social media platforms forever, so the world can appreciate and learn and enjoy. So with all of that, hello. Love Lana in the house on time, living large. Liz living life in Boston. Hello. Oh, I'm glad you're back. Deleuze in the house. I don't know if Cash commented earlier. I'm not sure if Cash is still here. Hello, Arthur from Mass. Did I miss that? I apologize. Anyway, if you're just joining, welcome. As always, I encourage you to leave your name and where you're from in the chat. Only if you feel comfortable. You do not have to chat. But it is a wonderful place to feel supported and have great conversation and pretty much ignore me. Hi, Jillian. And it lets me know who's here, which I love. Hey, Nathan, good to see you. Good to see you, Nathan. All right. So first and foremost, how's everyone doing today? Please feel free to let me know in the chat. Just cleaning my glasses. Don't mind me. Things I should have done before this started. Oh, see, do you ever? It totally made it worse. I'm gonna try that again. Take two. This is not me being a perfectionist. This is me simply trying to see what the heck I'm reading. We have a guest, Dr. Fahad from Saudi Arabia today, which is very exciting. So thank you for joining. Appreciate it. So yeah, if you're here and you've commented, how are you feeling? Let me know what's up. How's OCD? How's related disorders? Do you have wins this week? The last couple of weeks? Anything we should celebrate? We should talk about? I am open to any and all. Of course, I'll initiate a conversation any day. So there's definitely topics we can talk about, but I always at least like to open it up to you all first. Okay, Maya wrote, doing well today. OCD is adapting to my new college environment, but I'm trying to fight those new compulsions. Absolutely, I relate to that. I found that like when I went to school, OCD definitely kind of went on honeymoon for a little while until I started to get used to the situation, at which point it started to get really loud and as you said, adapt. I think that's a great way to put it, Maya. So I totally relate to that, but I'm glad you're fighting the new compulsions, and when they're new like that and you have an opportunity to fight them, the harder you fight them when they initially come on, the quieter they'll get, and the faster the faster they'll get quieter as well. I'm not sure if you're finding that to be true, but I hope it is. I hope you are, because I do find when I have sort of new things that tick up, at the same time, when it ticks up around new things, it can feel kind of scary because you generally value those new things. So it feels even more threatening. That's a good red flag to let you know that OCD is poking its head up, and it's time to whack it back down like a whack-a-mole, and tell it to go back where it came from. I'm glad you're doing well, Deleuze. Had some setbacks, but also a lot of wins. I always say, more good days than bad. That is the goal. And if you want to break that down further, more good hours than bad hours, more good minutes than bad minutes, right? And so I like to look back personally at my week and go, did I have more good days than bad days? And, I think we're consistently there, and that's okay. Wow, I turned up the fix my face filter on Zoom, and I look weird. Not suggesting that I look fantastic otherwise. That's better. So, that is the nature of OCD and the nature of life. Life is change and stress and navigating and adaptation, and OCD responds in kind. So, sometimes you can have good weeks and bad weeks, good days and bad days, and so forth. But, as long as we get back up there and really try to celebrate the wins and see the wins, I think it's really, really easy for individuals with OCD. And I know for myself to really notice the struggles for the week and the pain and the suffering, and it interferes with like our perfection around, whether something was perfect or not. And because we're black and white thinkers, it's easy for us to stretch one, bad experience or day into letting it taint the rest of the week, for instance. A perfect example is, you buy a bunch of apples at the grocery store, one apple's rotten, the rest of the apples are just fine, right? But sometimes we go, well, that apple is bad, so they're all bad. So, let's definitely celebrate the wins and chalk the blips up to just that. They're blips. That's just the nature of living with OCD, and let that be all it is, and move forward. So I love that, Deleuze, and I'm glad you recognize the wins as well. Beth Carducci in the house. Hey, gang. Hey, Beth. I love this. Deleuze, trying to practice more acceptance instead of resisting emotions and experiences. I love that. And I feel like that's already in your initial comment about, noticing your wins. I think that resisting emotions and experiences, sometimes can make us feel safe. And especially emotions around OCD and even life emotions and things like that, they can feel very triggering. And, emotions sort of, we don't necessarily want to feel them. They may push us to solve a problem that doesn't exist or engage in a compulsion that we don't want to. When really emotions are such a important part of life, not an important part of OCD, but an important part of life. And so I love the idea of just being accepting of the emotions that you may feel and the experiences that you're having, and try not to judge, right? Just to experience and notice and observe, which is very to acceptance commitment therapy, and pay attention to but without judgment, without opinion, just, that's interesting. Good to know. Thank you for that experience. Thank you for that emotion. Thank you for those experiences and feelings. And noted. And just keep moving along. I think that's awesome, Deleuze. And I think you'll find a lot of freedom in that. I know I have. Sam Fadden in the house. What's up, Sam? If you're just joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me know you're here. Let me know where you're from if you feel like it. And it's early. We have 50 minutes left. And so please feel free to load up the chat with questions, things you want to talk about, topics. If we don't have more questions in the next 5 minutes, I'll probably just start talking about something interesting. And that usually triggers a cascade effect of questions. But in the meantime, feel free to load it up. Beth Carducci, it's funny how my other types of OCD took a backseat to my fear of COVID. I think I may have mentioned this before. Yeah, that tends to happen. And same with me, and probably same with a lot of people, is that our OCD tends to focus on whatever is the most, in health anxiety's case, the most threatening, the most life-threatening, or the most important if it's around harming someone else or whatever it is. It seems to be the most, it tends to be whatever the most urgent and threatening and intense. And then when that is alleviated, it sort of drops down to the next thing, right? Strangely, when I was struggling last year with the health stuff, my OCD was actually pretty quiet. I was kind of so focused on, what the mass was in my stomach, and was it going to be cancer? Was it not going to be cancer? What was going to happen? And I was so busy fighting, just navigating every day and living a really value-driven life and trying not to cope by avoiding and things like that. My OCD actually remained rather quiet. In December, when I got the MRI that said you're probably pretty good and we're going to test in a year and everything looks positive, about 2 weeks after that nice little dose of, oh, thank God, I noticed the old themes coming back up, right? Because now the big threat to my life is over. And so now we can worry about smaller threats to my life that seem bigger. So I totally relate to that, Beth. And I think so many people can relate to that as well. Katie O'Dunn in the house. Good to see you, Katie. Beth, 5 years. All right. But I think we take a cue from Deleuze, and we don't just look at it as like, oh, wow, 5 years since my fear of COVID started and fear of long COVID and shutting in. And I think maybe we should look at some of the wins that you've had too. You may not be exactly where you want to be, but I think you've had a lot of wins this year. So I think it's important to recognize them, and feel free to load them in the chat. Christiana in South Carolina, it's good to see you. Let's see. SP asks, hi, Ethan, I'm writing essays for graduate school applications. Congratulations, by the way. I find myself wanting to not apply because I might not write a compelling enough application. Any advice, thoughts? Yes. So my thoughts around that is be willing to write an extremely boring, non-compelling application. That is the goal, right? OCD is going to cast all kinds of doubt in your head about whether you can, whether you can't, whether it's not good enough, whether it is. And at the end of the day, if you don't try, you'll never know. I don't know where you are in terms of diagnosis or therapy or anything like that. But from a treatment perspective, the goal would be to write your essays. Apply the applications, write whatever it is you need to about yourself, and be willing to sit with the uncertainty and the concerns and the thoughts and the fears that maybe it's not good. Maybe you're not interesting enough. Maybe you don't have, the right skills or grades or experiences. OCD is going to cast all that doubt on it. That's what OCD is, the doubting disorder, right? And it is your job to not let OCD get in your head, to just put yourself out there, be willing to put it all out on the line and see what happens, knowing that no matter what happens, you will be able to deal with it. You will make it happen, right? You will be able to. Ideally, you get into the grad schools of your choice. If you don't, you will be allowed to be sad. It will be valid, and it will lead to something bigger and better. And so, trust in the process, trust in yourself, and what you've accomplished so far, and absolutely go for it, knowing that you're going to have thoughts. It's going to feel icky. You might want to seek some reassurance about the applications or see what other people think or what other people are doing. The best thing you can do is just be authentic to yourself, let the noise happen, write it out, and hit that submit button. And then you don't have control from there. You really don't. And ultimately, you never really know. I mean, unless they tell you, but you never really know why you may or may not get in somewhere. But I would encourage you to let the scary thoughts be there and be willing to take the risk. I think it will be worth it. I really do. Meepers is sitting on my lap. For those of you that don't know what that means, we have 2 cats, one of which we call Meepers because she never learned to meow. She just meeps. So Katie is letting me know that she is comfortable snuggling with a cat while I'm here with all of you, which I honestly would prefer. MRIs can be expensive for sure, Nathan. I think insurance covered it for me, but yeah, they can be pricey for sure. Oops, sorry. Hi, Arthur. Can anyone share the moment when she acknowledged the fact that she was suffering with OCD and decided to seek help? What a great question. I don't know yet if anybody has answered you in the chat, but that's a wonderful question, Arthur. So I can only speak for myself, and I think for me, I think acceptance was a different time than diagnosis, right? So I was diagnosed at 14, and we all have different journeys with OCD. We were all, if you got treatment at different times, we all have very different experiences. For me, when I was diagnosed with OCD, it didn't necessarily mean that I was willing to accept that I had OCD. And I'm curious by the word acknowledged in your question. Acknowledge the fact that I was suffering. I think that it definitely gave me some clarity. I was 14 and helped me understand sort of some of the behaviors. Simultaneously, though, and I guarantee you everybody here can relate to this, is that it's not fun to admit that you have a mental illness. That's not an easy thing to do. It's challenging. It's stigmatizing. It can make you feel less than until you're educated and you know what's going on. So, for me, acceptance that I had something that I needed to work on, meaning I had a disease and a disorder that I needed to get help with, was a real game changer. And that took time. That took a lot of time for me. And please feel free, chat, to weigh in on sort of what your experiences were. I've talked to lots of folks through advocacy, and it can look different. Obviously, if you're engaging in lots of compulsions, you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours a day compulsing and avoiding, and you feel genuinely like you're completely alone. And you even feel crazy and what's going on, and you discover you have OCD and read about it. Obviously, there can be a huge relief associated with that, knowing that there's a name to this thing I've been doing, knowing that it isn't just you, knowing that there is treatment and that there is help. And for a lot of people, just finding that out, and then moving forward is exactly the moment when they realize, oh my God, this is what I've been doing, and there's a path forward for me. I don't quite relate to that with my own story. I think I was diagnosed and went through 17 years of crazy stuff before I found the right treatment. And when I found the right treatment, I was very unwilling to sort of embrace and accept that this was something that was going on with me, even though I had, everything pointed to it, right? But that point about acceptance is true regardless of when you decide to take action, whether it's the description I just made about somebody that is somebody that is, discovers it online and relates and goes, oh my God, that's me. I have OCD. I'm gonna self-diagnose, and then I'm gonna investigate what this is. There's a moment there where there's this acceptance of, okay, that makes sense. I accept what I read as part of this thing that I'm going through. Or, there's lots of folks that are resistant. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the word OCD. It's like, whatever. And it's only at the point of acceptance that action and moving forward takes place. So hopefully that gives you some insight. It really is unique and individual to everyone. So it just depends. The last piece is, for me, that acceptance also came when I was completely unable to function. So I kind of was like, all right, living in bed is not super fun. Let's maybe do something about this now. Lee Shepherd in the house. Hi from middle of nowhere, Western Australia. If you're going to say middle of nowhere, don't specify Western. I just feel like that gives us some context. So it's a middle of somewhere. We know you're West. I don't know, just my own critique. Good to see you, Lee. I hope you're doing well. Simon, hi, Ethan. Do you have any tips for how to get more of your ERP therapy homework done? Yeah, great. So I'm assuming just being willing to engage in ERP when you're outside of session. So believe it or not, ERP, for those of you that are new here or may not know, exposure and response prevention, it's the gold standard treatment for OCD. It is a cognitive behavioral therapy where essentially you're asked to face your fears and then sit with the discomfort without compulsing. And over time, you start to feel better. And it is a long and difficult process, but it's very effective and can work for a lot of people. So to answer your question, the magic to ERP, and you've kind of nailed it, Simon, is really in the in-between times when you're in session. You're only in session, let's say you're seeing a therapist once a week. That's great. Maybe you work on it for an hour or two, and then it is truly up to you. And the magic really occurs when you are your own therapist. And so how do you get more done? I'm gonna say that maybe that's code for how do I resist compulsing and engage in exposures more willingly and more frequently in between sessions. The answer is know what you're fighting for. I can sit here and talk about embracing uncertainty and what you can and can't control, and sort of all of these highlights of what ERP and different modalities of treatment point at. But at the end of the day, for me, knowing what I was fighting for was the motivator to make me work at it day in and day out. So what was I fighting for? Life, finding my person, living my dream job, finding my dream job. I mean, in the beginning, just functioning, living like a human being, not feeling like a man in terms of, where I should be, not feeling an adult, and desperately wanting those things and keeping those things front and center, reminding myself when I was faced with something that was scary or that I wanted to engage in a compulsion that was triggering, reminding myself that doing so is the exact opposite of following my values, and doing so, engaging in a compulsion, is exactly what strengthens OCD and leads me in a direction further away from my values, my goals, my dreams, my life, and holding that close and consistently making that connection, right? That connection that I am not satisfied. I want more for myself. And you can still be compassionate with yourself. You can still love yourself. You can still show yourself tons and tons of grace, whether you do or you don't. But at the end of the day, it's this idea of, I'm going to show myself compassion, but I still want more. I deserve better. And so those in-between times when you're faced with that fork in the road of compulse, avoid, or engage, what's important to Simon? What's important to all of you? What do you want? What do you dream? And if you're not feeling motivated, the other half of that is do it anyway. Do not fight your OCD based on how you feel. Meaning if you don't feel like it, you won't do it. Doesn't matter how you feel. Do it because of just all the stuff I just said, right? Perfect analogy that I always say time and time again, and I apologize for the regulars, is people go to the gym whether they want to or not to work out because they know it's healthy. They may not feel like it most of the time. They may feel like some of the time, but they drag themselves there and do their 45-minute. I'm not one of these people, by the way, but they drag themselves there. They do their 45-minute workout, and they do it because they know that that's what's important to them. And ERP is no different. Whether you feel like it or you don't feel like it, whether you feel motivated or you don't feel motivated, you take the things that I just said about the importance of why you're doing these things, regaining your life, regaining functioning, coming back to that job, enjoying that job that you love, building on relationships, friend relationships, family relationships, romantic relationships, and keeping those things top of mind. If you can do that and you're willing to do those things for those reasons, as well as willing to do those things when you don't feel like it, because you know it's the right thing, you're going to come out on top. Beth Carducci wrote, I didn't know what it was, OCD. This was the question about when did you know and seek help. Until I watched a talk show in the 80s, Oprah Winfrey, I decided to go for help after realizing what it was. Thank you for sharing that. CJ wrote, SP, you cannot do a compelling application without first doing the application. People who don't apply don't get in. CJ is always a lot more succinct and direct. I feel like we do this in concert, CJ, where I will say something extremely long-winded and CJ will drop in like, 3 quick sentences that pretty much sums everything I just said. And yeah, that's the reality of it, is you'll never know unless you try. You won't get in unless you apply. Oh, it's like a wrap. So yeah, completely agree. And I see your comment, SP. You're very, very welcome. Let's see here. So Arthur Meyer wrote, I definitely resisted for a long time and even got angry at my parents for suggesting that it was a problem. I found a mantra to hold on that motivated me to seek out therapy. So, there you go. And especially, depending on your age, if you're a teenager in your early 20s, and I mean, for me, not functioning is a great motivator, right? But if you're in a place where it's interfering, but it isn't completely derailing, it can be very easy to convince yourself that, I'm good enough. Fine. It's this thing I deal with. It's really annoying. It sucks. I have it, but I don't want to, I don't want to not see my friends, or I don't want to not participate in school, or I don't want to miss this thing. I don't want to go to therapy. I want to do this thing. And that's very easy to get wrapped up into. What I always say is making the investment in navigating and treating OCD now will pay off tons and tons in the future. OCD is not always, but is oftentimes malignant. It does get worse without treatment. And so, when it's not completely derailing your life, when you can go to therapy and still work and go to school and do those things, right? That's really the time to go after it. Don't let it get to that place where it's completely sidelined you from life. So, if you're having thoughts like, it's not that bad, I'm still able to do X, Y, and Z, that is the exact time you should go somewhere and just nip it in the bud. You know what I'm saying? That is the perfect time to be like, you know what? Because it's not just about the fact that maybe your OCD hasn't, gone full blown, or however you want to call it. It's more about like enjoyment and the things that you're missing. You may not be missing it all, but you may not be present all the time when you're with friends or in class or doing something that you love or working, right? You're maybe in your head, maybe you're compulsing mentally, maybe you're compulsing physically, maybe you're having just constant obsessive thoughts and looping. And yes, you're present, but you're not present, right? So I would say there's so much more to squeeze out of life. Try to get back that 40% that you've lost, rather than be like, oh, I'm good with my 50% that I have. Nathan wrote, I was tested for learning disabilities. The psychologist observing me could tell I had OCD. I was correctly diagnosed the first time, which is pretty awesome, Nathan. Awesome that you were diagnosed. You know what I'm saying? Let's see here. Lots of good comments. These are great. Maya wrote, acknowledging the OCD is hurting more than it's helping is one of the hardest things to do. This is kind of a theme that's been running through all night. So I think that's beautifully said. Sam wrote, I think my initial acceptance wasn't really acceptance, rather feeling accepted into a community of people who just get it. But true acceptance has become, this is what it is, and we'll see where this experience takes us, whether we like it or not, as basic as that sounds. And that's beautifully said. I'm going to leave that up a second. The OCD community is amazing. And, even if you're not in treatment, you don't necessarily want to do treatment, or for whatever reason, even just engaging, if you're here tonight and you're talking with folks, that is a massive step forward. So feeling accepted is a huge piece of it. Knowing you're not alone is a huge piece of it. Finding community is a huge piece of it. But I love that this is what it is, and we'll see where the experience takes us, whether we like it or not. The goal with treatment is to not necessarily to like it. What we like is the result of treatment, right? So, I mean, nobody likes surgery. Nobody likes chemotherapy. Nobody likes necessarily going to the gym 6 days a week, right? But we like the result. We like what we're trying to do. We like what we're trying to accomplish. It is the work that we have to put in to get to the goal that we want to achieve. And so that's ultimately what it's about. So Nathan wrote, I embrace therapy and meds. I have too, Nathan. C and MA, I found out I had OCD while going through PTSD treatment from a toxic exposure. I have strong contamination themes. I've been in therapy for over 10 years, started ERP about 6 months ago. I'm so glad you found ERP. That's amazing. And hopefully you are seeing the wins and the gains, even if they appear slow. I was in that camp. I was diagnosed with OCD at 14. I didn't find the proper treatment, ERP and other modalities of treatment, until I was 31. But I had lots of therapy. It just wasn't the right therapy. And so, it mostly just, made me sicker and, made my parents broker. That's a common journey. Although hopefully with all the work, advocates are doing, and folks like you and the IOCDF and other nonprofits, my story as I get older becomes less and less the norm. I think just in the time I've been advocating since, I guess, 2011 or 2012, I mean, I've seen huge differences in kiddos that are 12 and 13 and finding therapy and treatment and all this stuff. I think that will continue to be the trend, right? I think people will get diagnosed and properly treated much sooner. Until hopefully we're at a point where you get a diagnosis the first time from a primary or anyone, and then you're sent to a specialist, right? Where you get the proper treatment. And it's no different than, going to a doctor and having a foot problem and being sent to a podiatrist. That is the goal, at least. Know what you're fighting for is my new mantra. Thanks for that. Absolutely, Simon. You're so welcome. Lee wrote, I think I like to think of it as living an ERP lifestyle, less homework. Great point, Lee. 100%. So Lee makes a great point, which is, and it's so true, is eventually, when you're first joining therapy, when you're first getting into therapy, I think the term homework is used a lot, right? You need to go home and you need to do these things, and you need to not do this and try to do this and try to resist that. And that is your homework for the next week until I see you next. Ultimately, and Lee is 100% right, ultimately we're talking about creating a lifestyle, an ERP lifestyle, where it really is just a way of living, and it's an uncertain way of living. This idea that we are willing to live uncertainly. We are willing to live without the certainty of the things that we crave certainty for, believing and knowing that, whether it happens or whether it doesn't, it probably won't because it's OCD. But if it did, whatever it is, we will handle it in that time, and being willing to not problem solve before the problems arise, right? We are willing to simply go with the flow, live our lives in accordance with our values. And if and when that thing comes up, we will navigate it. We will deal with it, even if it's just right feeling, or even if it's just right OCD, or just a feeling. It isn't necessarily, a specific thing that happens. Whenever I get that feeling, I'm just going to embrace it and move forward. And it very much becomes a lifestyle. It very much becomes second nature and involuntary. And not, as you know, I'll never say I'm perfect at it by any stretch of the imagination. But it does become second nature in many ways, where you don't have to put as much time and thought into engaging in an exposure. You just automatically, when you notice the thought, whatever it is, I go to the refrigerator, I open it up, I go to grab the ranch dressing to put on my food. I think to myself, how long has this been in the fridge? I should check the date. Is this bad? Should I taste it first? Should I smell it? I don't want to get food poisoning. Like, all that happens in my head, and it's all happening as I'm taking the ranch out. And more times than not, I will say, yeah, I don't care. It's probably OCD. I'm just going to eat my food and move on. And it is what it is. And trust that if I taste it and it tastes terrible, I will throw it out. Or if it smells terrible, I will. And of course, OCD, well, what if I don't know if it smells this way, or does this taste weird, or does this not taste weird? But that decision to do that is very subconscious. It doesn't feel like a long, lengthy process, which in treatment, it does feel like that. And that's okay, because we're just learning a new skill, right? So it is like, okay, I'm going to take this. Oh, there's the feelings. Oh man, that feels so uncomfortable. Okay. Do I want to do this? Do I not want to do this? I don't know. Okay. I want to fight my values. I want to follow my values. I don't want to make the OCD stronger. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to do this. Oh, there goes the anxiety. It's a process. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes, just like anything else in life, right? Till suddenly you're riding your bike and you're not paying attention to all the things you're doing to staying up. You're just riding. And living an ERP lifestyle is exactly that same way. You're not actively seeking out exposures. You're navigating life. When some exposure pops up or something triggering happens, you just engage in it, right? You just do the thing that you know to do. So thank you, Lee. I think that was awesome. I would love to know how Katie got help with her specific OCD, as I'm finding it impossible to get help. That is a great question. Dixie, I'm curious. I'm assuming you're talking about my Katie, my wife. And are you speaking in regards to what aspect of her OCD? I'm assuming you know some piece of her story. So if you're still on, I'm curious if you're talking about religious scrupulosity or moral scrupulosity or harm. What aspect of her story? I mean, in short, though, she found treatment, exposure and response prevention, acceptance commitment therapy. She did an intensive outpatient program. I mean, she saw a therapist regularly, but more than once a week, and really dove in. And combination of treatment and therapy, and also living that ERP lifestyle and finding support in community and advocating and all of those things. So Dixie, I'd love to learn more, and maybe we can point you in the right direction. Isostasia in the house. Good to see you, Isostasia. There's a current age Richard Dreyfuss look about you. Like it. Thanks for telling me to say it, do it. I have a Richard Dreyfuss look. I'm fine. I will accept that. I mean, an aged Richard Dreyfuss, isn't he like 95? Christopher, I'm willing to sit with this discomfort. I appreciate it. And as you said, Katie's, I'm gonna stick with it. He's actually one of my favorite actors. I haven't seen him in forever, but I'll take the compliment, Christopher, for sure. Myra, I totally agree. At the beginning of fighting compulsions, I often cried through resisting them because I just didn't want to do that at all. Exactly. And as we've often said with Beth Carducci, we're going to cry and wash dishes. We're going to wash dishes and we're going to do it crying. I can't tell you how many times when I was really in the midst of my own treatment in Boston and really just trying to navigate life, how many times I went to work crying. It was so challenging. And I would go in the bathroom and I would have a good cry. Then I would go out, and I worked in retail at a Guitar Center. And so I'd work with some people and then go back into the bathroom and cry again and have a panic attack and then go back out, and ultimately what is all that? It's emotions and feelings, but they actually don't control action. And that is a huge, or at least was for me, revelation. This idea that thoughts and feelings don't have to have a direct impact on my actions. And and I know that sounds silly, but you know, if you don't feel like it, you don't do it. If I'm crying, if I'm dysregulated, if I'm distraught, if I feel pain, then how can I go outside? How can I get out of bed? How can I do things that are important to me if I feel this weight and this ick, right? And I remember being in session and I was working on acceptance commitment therapy, and you know, my therapist told me to lie on the floor, and he's like, I really want you to close your eyes and imagine that your parents died in a car accident. Super fun. This is not an exposure. I didn't have a fear around that. But, you know, he really wanted me to get to a place where mentally I was there. And then he said, great, I want you to get up and turn off the lights. And I was bought in and I was crying. I was like, oh, what are you talking about? My parents, my parents just died. Like, I feel terrible. Like, no, I don't want to do anything. He's like, okay, you don't want to do anything. But the real question is, can you? It's a choice. You know, there's not some mysterious force holding you down to the ground. You know, you are physically able to get up off the ground with all the crap that you're carrying and go turn off the light switch. And that was a really awesome experience, because it was in that moment that I realized, okay, both can exist at the same time. I can have these really, really strong emotions, even if they're disruptive, or thoughts or feelings or whatever it is. And I can also engage in a value-driven behavior or activity. And those things can exist simultaneously, and that is okay. And at the end of the day, even if it felt horrible the whole time, I was still able to move in a value-driven decision. And that trains your brain. That trains your brain and rewires your brain. Even if you don't feel it in that moment, if you don't feel better, the message of the action really is what starts to reprogram your brain. And the more I practiced that, the more I realized that I could actually have fun and enjoy things without having fun and enjoying things. If that makes any sense in the world, I can feel like crap and have a good time at the same time. It's a bit of a paradox, but you know, if it makes sense, it's like I can notice that I feel terrible and I don't feel like doing this. And I can also pay attention to the fact that I'm kind of enjoying whatever the experience is. This food tastes good, even though I feel like crap. And the conversation is funny, even though I have this terrible headache because I'm just kind of over all of this stuff, and so on and so on. And so kind of that duality is real, but also it's really important. And I think that's cool that both can exist, because eventually one will override the other. You'll start to experience the joy and happiness and good feelings that you should when you're engaging in something value-driven, and eventually that takes over completely. Simon wrote, I've wholly embraced value-based exposures. I thought that maybe an ERP lifestyle meant just habituation and not as much focus on the idea of values. I guess I could call it the ACT plus ERP lifestyle. Absolutely. Listen, you know, I don't like to get too bogged down in the modalities of treatment. You know, they're all effective. ERP is the gold standard. You know, it works for 70%. It may not work for everybody. That could be for a variety of reasons. You should give it a try if it didn't work the first time. It matters where you are in your process, what you're willing to do. ACT is great. DBT is great. You know ICBT works for some folks. I want people to feel better. I want people to engage in researched, evidence-based treatments that work for them, and then help them regain their lives. That is the ultimate goal. So whatever lifestyle that is, right, that is based in research-based, evidence-based treatment, that's the lifestyle we should all be living. So in that case, I'm living an ERP, ACT, DBT lifestyle without question, or at least trying to. Dixie, you may have left already. But yes, it will be. You're probably not here, but it will be online, and I'll try to find you on Facebook and send you the link. Oh, exactly, Simon. I see actor ERP in a book title, and I want it on my shelf immediately. Absolutely, there's so much to learn. Don't get compulsive about learning, but there is a lot to learn. Robert Spence, my OCD recently glommed onto scam emails masquerading as bills for crap I didn't buy. I'm like, wait, but did I really buy that crap when I was half asleep? If it were me, the answer is yes, I did. But yeah, no, it's OCD is funny, and it can gaslighty on some things for sure. And I think there's like all these like little innocuous things that suddenly grab your OCD and starts to pull the thread. And then, if you just kind of engage a little bit, that thread starts unraveling. And something like as simple as a spam email starts to really like grab you and start to question, yourself. So I totally relate to that, for sure. And CNMA, yes, very slow for me, but I'm moving forward. Diagnosed in my late 20s and trying to get free now at 39. Absolutely. And you know what? Whatever you feel about that is valid. If you're angry, if you're pissed it took this long, whatever it is, that is so valid, and you will work through those emotions. Just know that you have so much beautiful life ahead of you. I would say that to you at 39. I would say that to somebody at 60. And I would say that I've met women and I've met people. It just happens to be a woman. It was 92 and starting therapy for the first time. There is no, and I remember when I finally got therapy at 30, 31, I was really angry, mostly just because of how much OCD stole from me, how much time and all the experience that it is, especially in the formative years of my life. And I know all of you can relate to that in some way. So I was really, really angry. And those emotions were valid. What I learned though, is that I just couldn't live there, which was challenging to do at first. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to catch up. I wanted to make those things up. I was angry that I'd missed those things, when really my attention needed to be on what's next, where can I go, what's happening, with this newfound freedom, from OCD, what's next and what can I accomplish? And when my focus shifted to that was just so exciting. And that doesn't mean that from time to time I don't think, if I could have done this 20 years ago, or if I could have just done that thing. I was at a college over the weekend with a dear friend of Katie and I. She was accepting an award, and we were there, and it was all of these different alumni getting awards and talking about how amazing this college was, and how the 4 years changed their lives, and how they made their lifelong friends there, and the experiences they'll never forget, and it shaped them. And all I could think about was, I never had that. I had 3 months of college. I loved it. And my OCD kicked in, scared the crap out of me, and I left. And I mean, like, I was sitting there and I was annoyed. I was pissed. I was frustrated. I had some strong emotions around this, and I haven't thought about that in a long time. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I didn't get that. I didn't get that 18 to 22 college experience where it changed my, and all those things. But we are a culmination of our experiences. We are where we are because of the experiences we've been through. And I wholeheartedly believe that I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't be with you tonight. I wouldn't be married to Katie or doing any of the things that I'm doing if it weren't for my journey. And so it's okay for me to wonder what that had been like, how my life would have turned out, but those strong emotions that I had were just that, emotions that I observed and said, okay, that was interesting, but gosh, I'm just going to keep looking forward, and that's okay. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that relates CNMA, but I don't know. That's what came up for me when you wrote that. So valid. I was born with OCD. I don't remember a time where I wasn't. I mean, I think as soon as I could express some sort of coherent thought, it was obsessive and compulsive. So, I totally agree. For me, it's different for everybody. You can be diagnosed at different times. Different traumas can bring it on. Different milestones: puberty, college, high school, birth. Not your birth. Well, your birth definitely brings it on if you have it, because you're not. But no, giving birth or having a child. So that is true for some. Absolutely. Let's see. I'm pretty far behind. I apologize. I love all this support. False memories are different from uncertainty. If you're retracing your steps, you are likely uncertain the root of OCD. That is a great statement, CJ. Absolutely. That makes sense, CJ. I also have an issue with not remembering if I did something right. Did I bump that thing? Yeah. I mean, false memories generally pertain to a very specific memory at some point in your past, that you have some sort of guilt, or it almost feels like a turning point, if you will. OCD in and of itself will make you doubt a lot of things, including not remembering correctly. So, did I hear that right? Maybe I should check again. OCD is really good at sort of making us forget or question the things that we knew to be true, and wanting to re-ask the question to regain certainty. And I mean, that in and of itself is mental rumination, right? When I was struggling and I was afraid I hit my head closing my the trunk of my car, I would sit on the sofa and replay it over and over and over. Did I do that? Okay, I was standing there and it's just far away, and I would feel that. Okay, no, I'm gonna go back. All of that stuff is OCD. And honestly, false memories is OCD too. It's just a subtype and a symptom of OCD. But that doubt piece creeps in a lot of different places and can lightly impact a variety of things. So. What about, hey, hi, James. What about the feeling of impending doom, constantly and consistently every day, over and over? Anyone else have that? Great thing. And sometimes impending doom is an OCD. You may have just general anxiety. There's a lot of overlap between some of these diagnoses. And, I think that I have that feeling. I think a lot of people probably get that feeling. Ultimately, it's best to obviously seek the guidance and consultation of a professional and help with diagnosis and treatment. But I think that is fairly common as far as anxiety disorders are concerned. A feeling of general doom and dread that something bad may or may not happen tends to be more general anxiety and not so much OCD. Not sitting here saying that is. I'm not a clinician, but generally that overall, I don't know, something might happen. That tends to be of a more general anxiety situation than OCD. I would love to watch Ethan's keynote speech. It is available online. For those of you that are interested in watching my keynote, which is literally my entire story in detail, from 2014, the IOCDF conference, where I was thinner and had color to my hair. If you're interested in seeing, actually, I forgot I have posting power. Let me just put the link for you real quick. I'm just going to Google it. Okay, here we go. Ethan's keynote. We're going to put that in the chat. Ethan's keynote. There you go. All right. So yeah, if you're interested in learning more about me and sort of my journey with OCD, a lot's happened since then. I can't believe it's been 11 years since that speech. But yeah, please watch it. And next time we talk, I'd love to hear what you think. I've seen Ethan's keynote and also speech he gave in Houston 2016. Oh, thank you, Robert. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the feedback. The ass burped lifestyle. I'm in for the ass burped lifestyle. That's awesome. What types of jobs help people with OCD? I don't know that there's a job per se. So, it's important that we look at OCD as, a manageable mental disorder. In other words, would you ask that question for somebody with diabetes, right? Is there a good job for somebody that has diabetes, or is there a good job for someone that has, I don't know, some other disorder, right? I'm a firm believer, because OCD is very treatable, and I don't say that lightly because I know how difficult it is. I know how difficult it is to access treatment. So I always say that with all the love and the respect in the world. Ultimately, Matthew, whatever job you want to do is the right job for you. I don't think we ever want to, long-term cater to whatever it is. For instance, if you have a fear of harming children, you might think, well, working with kids is the last thing I should do, but you probably also have a love of working with kids because OCD attacks the things you value most. So the goal here would not to make choices based on what the OCD is. That's simply avoiding and making the OCD stronger, right? So if you came into a clinician's office and said, gosh, I really am afraid, I'm going to accidentally hurt kids, the answer wouldn't be, okay, great, let's find you a job where you're nowhere near kids. The goal would be, let's treat the OCD and then you do what you love. But I appreciate the question. It was really interesting. Yes, Ethan, that completely related with me. Thanks for sharing your feelings on missing out on the college experience. I feel I missed out on having kids with my husband due to OCD fears. I know it's not easy. And, I'm having all kinds of thoughts around that as I enter. We're in it together. We're literally all in this together. I think we are all facing different milestones and different periods of time in our life. I hang out, Katie's 12 years younger than me, and her friends are her age or a little younger than them. So, I struggle with, God, I wish I were her age. Why couldn't I met her when I was her age? Why am I struggle with, if we have kids, God, I'm going to be the old father, and I do the math. It's okay. When they graduate high school, I'm going to be 140. I'm not that old, but, I think that some of the truths and realities are really hard to accept, but there are also things we can't necessarily change. And there's also, we don't want to necessarily think rigid either. I obviously don't know your circumstances, or anything like that. I don't know if you can have children, but there's things like, for women I've talked to in their late 40s, early 50s, do you want to adopt, right? Do you want to have a surrogate? Like there's options. I think the real thing is to know that wherever you are in your life, wherever you feel like sort of OCD dropped you off and what you missed, I think that that's valid and okay. And I think we're all, wherever we are in our place, trying to move forward from that spot, right? And as shitty as OCD can be and is, there are silver linings. Community is one of them. You all are one of them. The information and knowledge that we gain from treatment and therapy that pertains to living life, not just OCD, but the ability to live with uncertainty, the ability to see behaviors, the ability to support each other, the empathy that you gain, the compassion that you gain from other people. It is, I truly, truly haven't met anyone that isn't just so special in this community. So, wherever you are in your process, the emotions are valid, the feelings are valid, you're not alone. And simultaneously, let's all support each other and inspire each other to continue to look forward and continue to move forward, even if the steps are small, even if it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Let's continue to inspire each other to ask ourselves, what's next? What can we do? How can we make a difference in our lives and other people's lives? What's there for us and what are our values and how can we follow them? I know we're right at time, and you're so welcome for the thank yous. I just wanted to see, just looking, I see my post. Oh, that's okay. We're not too far behind. I quickly want to scan up to read Misty's. I just want to read it real quick before I post it. My son was 14 when his kicked in. I'll go ahead and post it. His is severe, and it took until he was 21 to find a psychiatrist that knew enough about OCD to help him. If it wasn't for this organization, I wouldn't have found good therapists, psychiatrists. Hope we are on the upswing. It has taken over his life. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Misty, about that. I'm grateful that your son has found a psychiatrist and psychologists and therapists engaged in treatment and getting help. And know that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and it's a process. But I'm so inspired. I hate that it took that long. Simultaneously, I'm so inspired and appreciative that he's 21 and has his whole life ahead of him, and he's in the right place, right, getting the things. And it may not be easy, but you have a great community behind you. We're all pulling for your son, and I think there's a lot of help and a lot of hope out there. So thank you for sharing that, Misty. I really appreciate that. Oh, and real quick on the Doom, I have General AD. General AD. Hi, I'm General AD. I have general anxiety disorder, and I get that impending doom feeling quite often, but I don't give a damn anymore. So every time is less and less distressing, since I know it's just anxiety. Isostasia, love you. And that's true. Yes, the meteor may be coming, or the asteroid may be coming. Maybe it won't be coming. It is. I'll tell you when I get it. I get it when I'm on vacation. That's when my general anxiety kicks in, when I don't have a lot to worry about. I'm not working and all the things. And suddenly I just feel like, oh God. I call it foreboding joy. I didn't coin that term. I forgot who told that to me, but it's just like, all right, something's coming. What is it? What direction is it coming from? Where is it coming from? Oh crap, here we go. So that's generally when it hits me. But yeah, I totally relate. And we'll end with this. I love this. Thank you, Ethan, and everyone in the chat. Warm wishes to all who struggle and advocate. Absolutely love Lana. Thank you, Ethan, and all. Thank you all. Y'all are awesome. This was such a great chat tonight. I so appreciate you. Real quick, as always, I want to thank the IOCDF for allowing me to continue to support, and you support me and continue to have these live streams. So thank you. Tomorrow, if you have questions, if you want to speak to a clinician, somebody who's an expert, Ask the Experts with Chris Tronsden will be tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern on all of these platforms. Chris is awesome and so knowledgeable and a great guy. So please feel free to log in, tell him I said hi, and ask your questions away. As always, please feel free to subscribe and follow on all the social media platforms so you get notified when we go live. I will see you. Oh, and as always, if you want to reach out to the IOCDF, if you have questions, you can always visit IOCDF.org, support resources, help finding a therapist. You can email and reach out to them, and they are an amazing community. With all of that, thank you so much. I'm almost positive, I should have looked ahead of time. I'm almost positive I see you 2 weeks from today. I think that sounds about right. So until then, have a beautiful evening. Stay safe, feel the feels, stay vigilant. Don't let OCD off the hook. And we'll see you 2 weeks from tonight. Yeah. Okay. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Good night.